Hello, this is BJ Stasio for the Advocacy and Inclusion segment. I'm here today with my guest, Judy Heumann. Thank you, Judy, for being here today. It's an honor to interview you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be with you.
The first question I have for you, what are some of your experience in advocacy that helped you be the person you are today?
I would say watching my mother and my father as they learned to become advocates when I was a child and was being discriminated against based on my disability, and this was in the 1950s when there were no laws to protect our rights. And later on when I was in high school and they were still having to continue to be fighting for my rights. I think over that period of time, I began to recognize that I needed to be able to become my own self-advocate. And that was something that, slowly evolved, because one of the issues I had to continually deal with was my not feeling equal within the broader society. And so I really needed to recognize within myself that I had to believe in myself and believe what my dreams were and that I could achieve them. So it was an evolution of being able to become an advocate for myself at the same time that my other friends were going through the same experiences. So I think we really, not just individually, but collectively, we're learning about the importance of being able to work together and support our objectives of removing barriers in society, ending discrimination.
Can you tell us a little about the documentary Crip Camp?
Crip Camp, I think, is an amazing film for a number of reasons. It's about a camp in Hunter, New York. It's filmed in 1971, or much of the footage that is in the film highlights Camp Jeanette in 1971. And it takes us from 70s up to pretty much today, both looking at the camp and the experiences that it was giving to many of us who were teenagers at that point, who were both, maturing like all teenagers at the same time, grappling and struggling with who we were and who we wanted to be and the barriers that we were confronting. So the film is a great documentary because it really allows people to learn about a number of the voices of disabled people, both at the camp and as people moved forward, different areas that we moved into, and allows people to learn more about the disability rights movement, the Section 504 demonstrations, the work for the Americans with Disabilities Act, as well as earlier activities like the first demonstrations that I was involved with in New York in 1972, when Nixon vetoed the Rehabilitation Act. So to me, it's a film that opens the door for people to learn more about our history as disabled people, and likewise, it's an opportunity for non-disabled people who really know very little about our movement to learn more about it. And ultimately, I hope that it really spawns many other documentaries, not just in the US, but around the world, so that we have a better understanding of the history of the disability rights movement in the US and around the world.
What are some of the things that you're working on today?
So right now I'm doing a program called The Human Perspective. So I interview people. We have shows coming up at least twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month. We're doing something called Monday Minutes, which are really intended to be funnier as a rule, where people ask me a question about, like, what are my favorite classes, and how do I fold bags, and silly things like that. And then I'm really building out the work that we are doing with the human perspective and working to reflect the diversity of the movement. I think one very important aspect of what's been going on in 2020, both with COVID and Black Lives Matter movement is the fact that we're recognizing that the policies and practices in the United States and around the world really, in spite of laws that we have, the relegation of disabled people, those with developmental disabilities, people who are older and need assistance and can't get it at home, are victims of COVID because we're segregated, where COVID and other viruses can spread. The workers that are working for us are not receiving appropriate PPE, and ultimately we want to be in the community. We don't want to be in segregated environments. And the Black Lives Matter movement, I think, is really very important because of obvious reasons, but in the disability community, because it's also really bringing forth the voices of many younger people with disabilities, different types of disabilities from the Black community, Latino community, and others. So I think it's really allowing the world as a whole to learn more about the breadth of the movement.
And what's the final message that you would give our audience of advocates today moving forward?
Advocacy is more important than ever. You really need to know what you want in life and don't filter it out by what you think you can get. I think, and we need to work together. Working together, we can both help advance our lives individually, but also, and I think equally important, is really to continue in a much more aggressive way to break down the barriers of people's misconceptions of who we are as disabled people and our value to society.
Thank you very much, Judy, for being on the segment with me today. It's been an honor. You are my hero. Everybody who can, see the film Crip Camp, read the book Being Human. It's an awesome book. Love you, Judy.
Thank you.